Hello, everybody. Dante's Game Room here, back with another quick number one comic book review. This is actually a 5-part mini-series from Image Comics, and it's Joe Pruitt and Marcelo Frusion. Um, uh, Marcelo Frusion did the art and the coloring. Joe Pruitt was the writer, and the letterer was Joe Martin. This book was really weird for me. I enjoyed the premise and the art, however, the dialogue and writing really threw me off. As a history buff or fanatic, it was pretty hard for me to look past it. Yet, at the same time, I tried to remember it was written for a modern audience to understand it. Even so, it was written in a way that pulled me right out of the great art and design. It almost felt like a Monty Python and the Holy Grail with Vikings at times, knowing that even translated to modern English, Vikings of this age would not talk or think this way. They just wouldn't talk or think like this. However, for dumb fun, it will work if you don't take it as a serious timepiece. That is, the colors were great. The art and the feel it was trying to establish, you could feel the cold air expressed from the lungs, warmed for only a moment by the flesh of their lungs. The night felt like night, and the beast in the forest looked amazing. The natives looked good as well. They were just the wrong natives for the area this was supposedly to take place in. However, they worked for what most people would think as natives. Overall, for dumb fun, it works. If you're looking for a historically accuracy, it fails miserably. But most people don't read comics for realism. I gave this a 6.75 out of 10. Like I said, just knowing how at this time in this age, I've studied a lot of it, and this just isn't how they would, first of all, really behave. They wouldn't think in this manner. They wouldn't, most definitely wouldn't talk. And I felt that trying to convey it in modern English, it just pulled me out of the story because the concepts they were using in the terminology just is related too much to modern times and how modern thinking would work. But however, it's a comic book. The art was done so well, and I really enjoyed the premise. I just wish it had a little bit more historical accuracy is all. Of course, you can't. When you try to please everybody, sometimes you end up pleasing nobody, and sometimes when you try to please, too much of a niche or a niche, it's a cool concept. Like I said, it's Vikings and werewolves. So I mean, overall, it's a mash and an amalgamation of stories from different parts of the world, kind of, in literally the new world. So overall, I really enjoyed it for dumb fun, but I had to keep on reminding myself that this wasn't written as a historical piece. Even though it kind of portrays itself as it was, it just there's just too much that pulls you out of the story if that's what you're really going for. So I tried to look at it as dumb fun, and for dumb fun, it does work. And if you aren't really versed in the culture and the language and the thought process of the Vikings, you won't even pick up on what I'm talking about. However, for me, it just kind of threw me off because I was just, it was so, the art and the feel otherwise and the atmosphere it creates was so well done. It's just the writing and the modern translation that he tried to put onto it, like I said, made it kind of feel more like a joke, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It had much more of a, like an old, like it was like somebody like trying to speak old English, or you know, it just seemed more like they were adding stuff in there to make it sound more it's hard to explain, but it's like the way that it was phrased, and it didn't work for me. It turned out to be just hyperbole for me. um like, you know, but when you're reading modern words on something that's supposed to have happened, say, even let's say 800 to 900 years ago, you think you are writing in an old-timey way, or an ancient tongue, or a proto language, but you're not. You're just adding. You're talking how, like, basically Hollywood has made you think they would talk. You know, it's almost like, you know, like, we can understand Shakespeare still to this day, even though it's kind of worded in different terminology. The thoughts and emotions are conveyed the same way. This is almost like Englishmen, or like the Vikings, speaking in like an honorable Native American Hollywood way. Like, I'm surprised. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was too much of what Hollywood has taught you to, or thought, and it was really a mixed match of cultures. But I'm droning on about that. Dumb fun, great. Artwork, great. Writing just needs to be toned down a little bit, trying to seem so, you know, it's just overthought, but at the same time underwrote and underthought. So chill out with the trying to sound fancy and special, and I think you could really have a great concept and book here. So until next time, Dante's Game Room out. Bye bye.